The rain tapped like impatient fingers on the tin roof of our little house, the kind of storm that makes the world feel small and secrets too big to hold. I sat in my rocking chair by the window, the one with the faded blue cushion that's been my throne for 60 years. My hands, wrinkled like old maps, clutched a chipped teacup, steam curling up like ghosts from the chamomile inside. Across from me, on the hooked rug my mamma wove before she passed, sat little Emily, my granddaughter. She was 9, all wide eyes and tangled brown curls, her knees tucked under her chin, as she hugged a pillow like it was a shield. "Gran, why do you look sad tonight?" Emily asked, her voice soft as a whisper in church. The lamp flickered, casting shadows that danced like old memories on the walls lined with yellowed photos, me as a bride, smiling too wide, my husband, Tom, young and strong, arm around our boy David, and Emily's mom, Sarah, the daughter-in-law who once called me family. I took a slow sip, letting the warmth chase the chill in my bones. The rain picked up, drumming harder, and thunder grumbled far off, like God clearing his throat. "Oh, sugar," I said, setting the cup down with a clink that echoed too loud in the quiet. "It's not sadness. It's a story that's been waiting to spill out, like this storm. You sure you want to hear it? It's got thorns, this one. Sharp ones that still prick." Emily nodded, her eyes gleaming like polished chestnuts. She scooted closer, the floorboards creaking under her. Outside, the maple tree scratched at the window, branches black against the lightning flash. I could feel the weight of it all pressing in, the house too small now, with David and Sarah gone to the city, leaving me here with dust bunnies and echoes. But Emily. She came every weekend, her little suitcase thumping on the porch like a heartbeat. Tonight, though, something in her face said she needed more than cookies and lullabies. She needed the truth of an old woman's scars. "All right then," I murmured, leaning forward. My voice dropped low, like I was telling a secret to the wind. "It starts with a betrayal, child. The kind that slices clean through your heart and leaves you bleeding slow. Picture this, a wedding dinner, not yours or mine, but your daddy's. The air thick with laughter and the smell of roast chicken and apple pie. Candles flickering on checkered tablecloths in that old barn behind the church in Willow Creek. Folks from all over, cousins in their Sunday best, aunts clucking like hens, the preacher with his pipe tobacco stain on his collar. And me, sitting there in my green dress, the one with the lace collar that itched something fierce, holding Tom's hand under the table like it was the only anchor in a roiling sea." Emily's breath hitched. She leaned in, the pillow forgotten in her lap. The rain sheeted down now, blurring the world outside to grey smears. I could almost smell it, the barn's hay scent mixin' with the gravy, the fiddle tunin' up for the first dance. My eyes drifted shut, and when I spoke again, it was like I was there, the words painting the scene for us both. We'd been married 25 years that summer. Tom and me, Eleanor and Thomas Hayes, high school sweethearts from this very town. He was the quarterback, all broad shoulders and that grin that could melt butter. I was the girl in the library, nose in a book, dreaming of places beyond the cornfields. We built a life here, this house, with its squeaky porch swing and the wild roses climbing the fence. David came along quick, our miracle boy with Tom's blue eyes and my stubborn chin. We scraped by on Tom's mill job and my sewing for neighbors, but oh, we loved fierce. Or so I thought. A crack of thunder rattled the windows, and Emily jumped a little, her hand reaching for mine. Her fingers were warm, soft as down. I squeezed them gentle, feeling the pulse of her youth against my faded one. "Keep going, Gran," she whispered. "What happened at the dinner?" I swallowed, the memory bitter as unsweetened tea. It was the evening after the ceremony. Sarah, your mamma, was glowing in her white gown, veil trailin' like a cloud. David, so handsome in his tux, couldn't stop kissin' her hand. The barn was alive, lanterns swingin' from the rafters, cast in golden pools on the wooden floor. Laughter bounced off the beams, and old Mrs. Hargrove was already tipsy on punch, telling stories about David's baby days. Tom sat beside me, his knee brushin' mine, his calloused hand on my thigh like always. I felt full, Emily. Full of joy, like the world's blessings had piled up just for us. I paused, rocking slow in my chair. The wood groaned, a familiar complaint. In my mind's eye, I saw the long table grown in two, platters of fried chicken golden crisp, mashed potatoes steamin', green beans simmerin' in bacon fat. Forks clinked on china borrowed from the church ladies. Tom's laugh boomed as David toasted the bridesmaids, his voice crackin' with nerves and happiness. Then, right as the fiddler struck up a tune, something slow and sweet, like a Shenandoah, Tom stood up. He tapped his spoon on his glass, and the room hushed, smiles freezin' in place. Folks leaned in, expectin' a father's proud words. I squeezed his hand, proud as punch myself. But when he cleared his throat, his eyes, oh, child, they weren't on me. They flicked to the shadows by the barn door, where a woman stood, tall, red hair like autumn fire, dress hugged in curves I hadn't seen Tom notice in years. Emily's eyes widened, her free hand clutching the pillow again. The lamp's glow caught the silver in my hair, turning strands to threads of moonlight. Outside, lightning forked the sky, illuminating the swinging porch light like a worn-in beacon. Eleanor, Tom said, his voice steady as a judge's gavel, but his fingers slip pin from mine like water through a sieve. This is the end for us. I've found someone new. The words hung there, heavy as storm clouds. Gasps rippled through the crowd, Sarah's hand flying to her mouth, David's face crumpling like wet paper. The fiddler faltered, bow screechin' on strings. I sat frozen, the green dress suddenly tight, as a corset round my ribs. The world tilted, the lanterns smearin' to streaks of gold and black. Who was she? That woman in the shadows, Lila Monroe, the widow from the next county over, who'd come to town with her laugh like wind chimes and eyes that promised escape from the daily grind. Emily gasped too, her little body goin' rigid beside me. Gran, he said that. At the wedding. I nodded, tears pricking but not falling. Not yet. Right there, with the pie half eaten and the cake waiting to be cut. Folks stared, eyes wide as saucers, whispers starting like dry leaves in a gale. Mrs. Hargrove choked on her punch. Sarah looked at me, her new bride eyes beggin' for a script she didn't have. And Tom? He just stood tall, like he'd rehearsed it in the mirror, his chin lifted with that smugness that used to charm me but now curdled my stomach. The rain hammered now, a curtain shut us in with the ghosts. I rocked faster, the chair creaking like old bones. Emily's hand tightened in mine, her thumb tracing circles on my knuckles, a comfort she'd learned from me. What did you do, Gran? Did you cry? Yell? Oh, I wanted to, I confessed, voice cracking like the thunder. Scream till the rafters shook. But I didn't. Something in me, maybe Mama's steel spine, or the love I'd poured into this family like mortar in bricks, held me still. I rose slow, smooth as silk, and smiled. A brittle thing, that smile, but it fooled 'em all. Ladies and gentlemen, I said, voice cayenne clear over the hush, looks like the night's got one more surprise. But let's not let it spoil the cake. Laughter trickled out, nervous, and the fiddler picked up again, faster this time, like fleeing the awkward. But inside, I was shattering. As the party swirled on, dances starting, toasts turnin' forced, I slipped out the barn door into the cool night air. Stars poked through the clouds, indifferent witnesses. The gravel crunched under my heels as I walked the path home, alone, the green dress trailin' in the dust. Tom's truck stayed parked, he'd linger with her, I knew. Lila, with her city stories and soft hands that hadn't scrubbed floors or walked miles for doctor's bills. By the time I reached our porch, our house, with its sagged shutters and the lilac bush Tom planted on our first anniversary, the tears came. Hot and silent, soaking my collar. I sank onto the swing, chains rattlin' soft, and let the sobs shake me. 25 years. The miscarriages before David, buried shallow in the back field. The nights I sewed by lantern light while Tom snored, Dramamine of his mill shifts. The cancer scare that stole my hair, but not my fight, Tom holding my hand through the chemo fog. All of it, poured out like water from a cracked jug. Emily was crying now, quiet sniffles mixin' with the rain. She crawled into my lap, burrowing like a kitten, her head on my shoulder. I wrapped my arms round her, brayer thin in the scent of strawberry shampoo and innocence. It hurts, don't it, Gran? She mumbled into my neck. Like fire, darling. But fire forges steel, too. That night, as I sat swingin', a plan sparked. Not revenge, I'm no vengeful soul, but survival. See, Tom thought he knew everything about us. Our joint account, the house deed in both names. But I'd been quiet like 7 pennies from my sewin', buying back the mortgage in secret. 5 years of scrimpin', hiding statements in the flour tin. By morning, I'd be the one holding the strings. The clock on the mantel chimed 10, deep and solemn. Emily lifted her head, eyes red-rimmed but curious. What happened next? Did he come home? I smiled faint, brushing a curl from her forehead. That's for tomorrow's telling, sugar. The storm's easin', and you've got school dreams waiting. But remember this, love's a wild thing, beautiful and brutal. It breaks. You open, but that's how the light gets in. She nodded, yawning wide, and I helped her to the spare room, tucking quilts round her small form. As I kissed her brow, the rain slowed to a drizzle, stars peeking through. Back in my chair, I picked up the teacup, cold now. The story hung unfinished, a thread pullin' tight. Tomorrow, Emily would ask for more, the fights, the leavings, the rebuildin'. And I'd give it, piece by painful piece, 'cause that's what grandmas do. We pass the torch of our wounds, so the young ones carry hope instead of hate. But as sleep tugged at me, one thought lingered, sharp as that betrayal. What if Tom had known? Would he have stayed? Or was the end written long before the wedding feast? The morning sun sliced through the kitchen curtains, painting gold stripes across the linoleum floor where Emily sat cross-legged, munching on toast with strawberry jam. Her eyes, still puffy from last night's tears, followed me as I shuffled to the stove, the kettle whistling like a train leaving the station. My old housecoat, faded roses on cotton, hung loose on my frame, and my slippers whispered against the floor. The air smelled of coffee and burnt crumbs, comfort in its ordinariness, a shield against the storm of memory brewing in my chest. Outside, the world was washed clean by last night's rain, the lilac bush glistening like it held secrets of its own. Gran, you stopped at the part where you had a plan, Emily said, her voice sticky with jam. She wiped her mouth with the back of her hand, leaving a red smear. Did Grandpa Tom come home that night? After what he said. I poured hot water into my teacup, the chamomile bag bobbing like a lifeboat. Settling into my chair, the one that creaked like it knew all my aches, I met her gaze. Her curls were wilder today, framing her face like a halo, but her eyes were sharp, hungry for the next piece of my heart. Oh, he came home, sugar, I said, voice low, like I was coaxing a skittish colt. But not the way you're thinking. Let me take you back, to the morning after that wedding dinner, when the world felt like it had tipped upside down. I leaned back, the chair rocking slow, and closed my eyes. The memory rolled in like fog off the river, thick and cold. Picture it, Emily. Dawn, barely break-in, the sky all bruised purple and pink. I'd been up all night, sitting on that porch swing, my green dress crumpled like a used tissue. My eyes burned from crying, but my mind was clear as a bell. I'd decided, no more bend in. I'd loved Tom fierce, given him every piece of me, my youth, my sweat, my dreams of city lights traded for this small-town life. But his words at the barn, they cut deeper than any knife. I've found someone new. Like I was a worn-out coat he could toss aside. Emily's toast sat forgotten on her plate, crumbs scattering like tiny stars. She leaned forward, elbows on her knees, the sunlight catching the freckles across her nose. Did you fight him, Gran? When he came back? I chuckled, dry as autumn leaves. Not with fists, darling. My fighting was quieter, but it cut just as deep. See, Tom rolled in round 6 that morning, his truck rattling up the drive. I heard the engine cough before I saw him, still in his wedding suit, tie gone, shirt untucked. His hair was mussed, and his eyes, they weren't the blue I'd fallen for. They were cloudy, like he'd been drinking Lila's promises all night. He stepped onto the porch, boots heavy, and stopped when he saw me sitting there, still as stone. The kettle's whistle faded in my mind, replaced by the creak of that porch swing, the air sharp with dew and betrayal. Eleanor, he said, voice rough like gravel. We gotta talk. I didn't look at him, just kept swinging, the chains squeaking soft. The lilac bush was bloomin' fierce that spring, its scent so sweet it stung. Talk, then, I said, my words ice cold, though my heart was a furnace. He stood there, hands in his pockets, rocking on his heels like a boy caught stealin' cookies. It's over, Ellie. I'm leaving. Lila, she's got a place in Knoxville, a life that don't drag me down. Emily gasped, her small hand flying to her mouth. He said that. That you dragged him down. Yep, I said, sippin' my tea, the bitterness matchin' my mood. Like I hadn't scrubbed floors till my knees bled, or walked 3 miles to the market when the truck broke down, or stayed up nights with David's fevers while Tom slept. I could have screamed, thrown his suitcase out the door, but I didn't. Instead, I stood, slow and deliberate, and looked him square in the eye. You go on, then, Tom Hayes, I said. But this house, it's mine. Paid for with my sewin' money, penny by penny, while you were Drea of redheads. You'll sign it over, or I'll make sure every soul in Willow Creek knows what you've done. The kitchen went quiet, save for the tick of the mantel clock, and the afternoon sun spilled through the kitchen window, warming the old oak table where Emily and I sat. A plate of oatmeal cookies between us. Their cinnamon scent curled in the air, mingling with the faint must of my little house, its walls heavy with years of laughter and tears. Emily's fingers, sticky with crumbs, traced the grain of the wood, her eyes locked on me. She was quieter today, her usual chatter replaced by a stillness that said she felt the weight of my story. The radio hummed softly in the corner, some old country tune about lost love, its twang a gentle echo of the ache in my chest. Gran, Emily said, her voice small but steady, you said you made Grandpa sign the house over. Did he? And what happened to you after? Did you find happiness again? Her brown eyes, so like her daddy's, shimmered with hope and worry, like she was carrying my pain in her little heart. I reached across the table, my hand, spotted and thin, covering hers. The warmth of her skin grounded me, pulling me back from the edge of memory. Happiness, sugar, ain't a thing you find like a lost button. It's something you build, slow and careful, from the ashes of what's gone. Let me finish the story, so you see how the light came back. I leaned back in my chair, the familiar creak like a friend's sigh. Outside, a breeze stirred the wild roses by the fence, their petals pink against the green of late summer. I closed my eyes, and the years peeled away, taking me back to those days after Tom left, when the world felt like a bruise that wouldn't heal. Picture it, Emily, I began, my voice soft as the radio's hum. Summer turned into fall, the air crisp with apples and wood smoke. The house was quiet, too quiet, after Tom packed his bags and drove off to Knoxville with Lila. I stood on the porch that first morning alone, the swing still, the lilac bush dropping petals like tears. David and Sarah were still in town then, newlyweds settling into a little apartment by the mill. They came by sometimes, but it was strained, David's eyes guilty, Sarah's smile tight, like they were walking on eggshells round my broken heart. I paused, sipping my tea, now cold in its chipped cup. The memory stung, sharp as a bee. Tom signed the house over, just like I asked. I'd kept my secret well, those years of hiding sewing money in the flour tin paid off. The deed was mine, clear and legal, filed at the county office by a lawyer friend who didn't charge me a dime. But victory don't taste sweet, when your bed's empty and your son's too ashamed to meet your eyes. I was 50, Emily, not old but not young, with hands rough from work and a heart raw from betrayal. Folks in Willow Creek whispered, some kind, some cruel. Poor Eleanor, they'd say at the market, or she should have seen it coming. I let Em talk. Gossip's just wind, it passes. Emily nibbled a cookie, crumbs falling like snow on her lap. But you were alone, Gran. Weren't you scared? Terrified, I admitted, a small smile tugged in my lips. But fear's a funny thing, it either sinks you or sets you silent. I chose silent. That fall, I turned the house into something new. The sewing room, with its pedal machine and bolts of calico, became my lifeline. I took in more work, dresses for church ladies, curtains for the new diner, even a wedding gown for Jenny Hargrove, bless her heart. Every stitch was a step forward, mending me as much as the fabric. I'd sit up nights, needle flashing under the lamp, the radio playing Patsy Cline, her voice crying with me but also lifting me up. The sun shifted, casting long shadows across the kitchen, like fingers reaching for the past. I could see it clear, the glow of my sewing lamp, the pile of scraps growing like a patchwork quilt of my survival. Money was tight, but I made do. Sold Tom's old tools, grew tomatoes in the backyard, traded jams for eggs with neighbors. And then there was the church. Oh, Emily, that little white steeple was my anchor. I joined the choir, my voice wobbly at first but growing stronger. Sundays, I'd sing Amazing Grace with tears in my eyes, feeling the words knit my soul back together. The other women, widows mostly, became my sisters. We'd share coffee and stories, laughing over burnt pies and crying over lost loves. Emily's eyes softened, a tear glistening but not falling. You were so strong, Gran. But, did you ever see Grandpa again? I nodded, slow, the memory heavy as a stone. Once, 'bout 2 years later. Winter, round Christmas. Snow dusted the porch, and I was hanging a wreath when his truck pulled up. He looked older, Emily, hair grey, shoulders stooped, like Lila's promises had worn thin. He stood at the gate, hat in hand, and said, Ellie, I messed up. Can we talk? I let him in, not 'cause I wanted him back, but 'cause I needed to know why. We sat right here, at this table, with coffee and silence between us. He told me Lila left him, took what little he had, and he was living in a rented room, working odd jobs. He asked to come home. The radio switched to a softer tune, a waltz that felt like swaying in a dream. Emily leaned forward, breath held. Did you let him? No, darling, I said, voice steady but kind. I forgave him, 'cause hate's a poison you drink yourself. But I told him, Tom, this house is my heart now, and you don't live here anymore. He cried, first time I'd seen him do that since David was born. I gave him a thermos of coffee and sent him on his way. Last I heard, he moved west, maybe Texas, chasing another dream. I pray he found some peace. Emily's lip trembled, and she climbed into my lap, her warmth a balm against the chill of those years. I held her close, rocking gentle, the chair creaking like a lullaby. That ain't the end, though, I murmured into her hair. Life kept moving. David and Sarah had you, my little light. They struggled, city life's hard, and Sarah's dreams of being a teacher got buried under bills. But you were my miracle. Every weekend you came, running up that porch with your suitcase, you brought the sun back. I taught you to sew, to bake, to sing the old hymns. And through you, I found joy again, not the wild kind I had with Tom, but the quiet kind, like a river running deep. The clock chimed 4, its notes soft as a prayer. Outside, a cardinal flitted to the feeder, red as hope against the green. Emily looked up, her face streaked but smiling. You're my hero, Gran. You lost so much, but you kept going. I kissed her forehead, tasting salt and sweetness. Heroes ain't perfect, sugar. They are just stubborn enough to keep walking through the dark till they find the light. And you're my reason to keep walking. This house, these stories, they are yours now. Build something beautiful with M, like I did. We sat there, wrapped in each other, as the sun sank low, painting the sky in pinks and golds. The radio played on, and the roses swayed, and for the first time in years, I felt whole, not because the pain was gone, but because I'd woven it into something stronger, love that endures, hope that blooms, even after the storm.